Yeah. Cold air, bright flame, hit a crest when we enter. When the crest covers, circle tight, we remember. Power in the whispers, protection in the spell. Ancient in our bloodline, yeah, we know it well. Strong minds, strong hearts, every sigil intentional. Love keeps us guarded, magic multi-dimensional. We rise together, no throne, no lone caster. Sisters and brothers, every spell cast faster. Ice in the wind, but the bonds stay warm. Through shadow and storm, we transform. This ain't fear, this is faith in motion. When the crest covered, strength, love, devotion.
This is the Wintercrest Podcast. I am your host, Paul Abiya Rafu, and I am thrilled to be with you on this podcast. I've been going through somewhat of a spiritual transformation concerning my pagan walk, and there's some things that are changing inside of my life. Now, I've been walking the spiritual path for a long time, and almost over 40 years. In fact, over 40 years. Started in 1985. And so it's been a while. It's been some time that I've been walking this path, seeking spiritual truth and looking for the truth and how to use spiritual forces to affect my own life. Now, when I first started out, I started out in the church, but I knew I was different in the church. In fact, I was born in California, and when I got here and I was able to walk and stuff, my grandmother noticed some things I was doing that were weird. And she touched my mother and said, "Watch Paul, watch him. He's a strange kid." And so my mother didn't understand what she meant rather. And so there was this one particular day that I was dancing around this particular circle in the floor, but I would not cross the circle. And my grandmother got my mom's attention and they asked me, "What are you doing?" And I told them I'm playing with this man. And they said, "What man?" Because see, they saw no one. They didn't see anyone there. And I said, "This man, he's in a funny chair with wheels on it, and he's eating biscuits. And he keeps asking me, do I want biscuits? And I don't want no biscuits, my dear. Tell this man I don't want any biscuits." And I kept playing. And my grandmother said, "Oh, this boy is something strange." So I was able to see spirits, and she hit my mother and said, "Lee, this boy is seeing your daddy." Now, her dad died before I was born. And my mom got scared and she said, "Paul, you tell daddy to get out of here and don't come back." Mom, she was afraid, okay? But I don't remember the encounter, but I remember the first spirits that I saw. Now, of course, I do know that clinical psychology will say that I'm suffering from schizophrenia. And that's why the family for many times told me not to tell other people I can do this. And I see spirits everywhere. And I was, and these are not apparitions of my imagination. And the reason I know that is because, I'll give you an example here. There was a young man in my kitchen. He was there with another student of mine by the name of Tajiri. Now, me and Tajiri, we don't know this young man's relatives. His name was Andrew. His name is Andrew. And we were talking about his grandmother, and I said, "Your grandmother is here." And he kind of looked at me, and I said, let me ask her what her name is so that you'll know she's here. And so I asked her name. She told me her name. I told him what the name was. And it was, it was akin to an anointing filling the room. They were excited. It was electric. And but this is commonplace for me. I literally live in a haunted house. Ghosts are all around me. I'm very comfortable in the cemetery. And I was this way when I joined the church. Now, and let me explain all of this here to you. Now, when I was young, I lived with my grandmother. And when my grandmother died, she had cancer, but she died of a heart attack. I was 6 years old. And Madea is what I called her. And she usually go and visit her sisters in Oakland, California, and her other daughter in Sacramento. That's the place I was born. And so Madea traveled quite a bit. So I knew she loved to travel. So I asked my mom, who was watching me, where's Mom? And she told me that Madea went to live with Jesus. Went to visit Jesus, went to stay with Jesus. So I figured she was going to visit and she's going to be back. I had no idea she was dead. Now, the weird thing about it is Mud didn't come visit me for many years. Many years. And I'll tell y'all about why that was later. So anyway, I thought she was coming back. And then when she didn't come back, I said, well, where's Mom? And they would always tell me she up there visiting Jesus. That's why you should tell children the truth. I had no idea where she was. So I'm like, okay, where's Jesus? I want to know everything about this Jesus guy. Because this is where Madea is there. And I'm starting to get a bit upset because why do you want to stay with Jesus rather than me? And so I'm trying to find out everything about Jesus. And then all of a sudden it was Easter, around Easter. And Madea's been gone for a while. And so Jesus come on TV and they saw Jesus of Nazareth. So I'm glued to the television, my young mind, because I need to know where he lived. I'm trying to go see my grandmother. And I see the story of Jesus, and it's fascinating. And man, he has a great magic. He's healing people. He's casting out devils. And I started asking my mother and my stepfather about this Jesus guy. And they didn't know a lot, And so my mother said, if you want to know more about Jesus, you need to go down to the church. And there was a church around the corner. And go ask them about it. So I went to the church. And I sat with a lady that my mother knew. And they said if I wanted to meet Jesus, I had to join the church. So I asked this lady her name was Ardelia Brazel. And I asked her, I said, Miss Brazel, when do I get to meet Jesus? And she said, well, I'll let you know when to go. And it was a missionary Baptist church. It was a small one. And so after the preacher preached, and he was very entertaining. His name was Michael Bell. He still pastors in Fort Worth, but he pastored here for a while. And, he would run across the pulpit, put his finger in his ear, holler, scream, and do all of those things. It was a wonderful show. And so the time came to meet Jesus. So she said, now you go up there. So I went up there, and I'm just knowing Jesus is finna show up. And he going to take me to his house with him so I can visit my grandmother. I'll be with my grandmother. So I'm sitting in the chair and I'm waiting. And the preacher came down. He said, do you believe Jesus? And I said, yes. You believe he died for you? You believe he raised on the third day? And I said, yes. Now, I didn't really have no idea what I was saying. But I said, yes. And so he said, okay, this is that. And I started crying. Now, they thought I was overcome with the Spirit, but I'm crying because he's telling me to go back to my seat, and Jesus ain't showed up. So I'm still looking for Jesus to come, and he didn't come. I sat in the chair. I waited. So in my little mind, I figured, well, maybe he just had something to do. So I'm going to come back Sunday after Sunday until I meet this Jesus. After about a month of this, I realized that my dear was dead because we had the conversation. And I still didn't know what I was seeing was ghosts because the people looked real to me. They didn't look dead. They didn't look like they did on TV. The room didn't get cold and, all these different things that you see on these ghost hunter channels. It wasn't like that for me. So I understood now, and I'm trying to figure out how do I get to see her. And I'm still not understanding that I'm seeing the dead. The first time I realized that I saw the dead was when I went to this funeral with the church, and a lady was sitting beside me. And she wasn't saying nothing. She looked a bit different. And sometimes they can look transparent. Sometimes they look just like you and I. And when I went up to go around the coffin, I realized that the lady didn't go. And I was trying to see who the lady was. And it was the very lady sitting beside me. And I said, oh, wow. How? And so nobody was there to teach me necromancy. So that's where I figured out I'm seeing ghosts. Okay? That's when I understood. And so, but I still hadn't seen my dear. I'm about 10 or 11 about this time. But I see them all the time. And like I said, sometimes, and I'm talking with them, I don't know that they're not human, that they're not in a flesh bag. They look like us. The energy is there, So I learned more about Jesus and stuff like that. And now my question has turned to why Madia hasn't come back to live with me, to why haven't she just come and show me herself? Because I know I can see spirits now. And so I get so enthralled in it, and I feel like I'm called to preach. I ask for all of these signs. All of the signs come through. And so I start preaching in August the 4th, 1985. And I study and I'm learning, and I was so dedicated. Jesus was like one of my heroes. And I wanted to be just like him. And it's funny enough, Christians were telling me I could never be like him. They were telling me you can never be just like Jesus. You're going to do something wrong. You're going to sin. You'll go crazy. I had preachers telling me this. Well, anyway, I preached my first sermon. I pastored my first church. And I became enthralled with everything magical. The first time I saw my grandmother, I was preparing to go on a trip to preach a revival in Amarillo, Texas. And my dear came to visit me. And I asked her, I said, my dear, why did it take you so long to come visit me? And she said to me, I didn't want to confuse you. And that's why she had not come until that point. She told me the truth about heaven, that heaven is not what they say it is. Okay? There's many different ideations, and we will talk about the transitions and the different heavens and the different creations, the summer lands. We're going to talk about all that. It makes perfect sense to me. And hopefully it will make perfect sense to you once we talk about it. So I talked to my dad, and I went to do a revival in Amarillo, Texas for LG Crow. But I love Jesus. I love the Christian preaching and the teaching, and I was somewhat different because I could see spirits. Now, my pastors told me not to tell nobody I could do that because they thought it was witchcraft, and they thought it was evil, and they thought witchcraft was evil. But in my mind, I could not distinguish the difference between Jesus' miracles and magic. It was the same for me. And when I went and I preached, I was doing magic and miracles. I called them one and the same. And people came. They came to hear me. Along my way, and I pastored different churches, and I became a bishop at the age of 18 in an interdenominational alliance. Baptists don't have bishops, but I was joining an affiliate group, and I became a bishop. I was able to preach in most denominations, including Church of Christ in Wellington, Texas. They came and listened to me preach. And but I got to a point where Christianity became so constraining, and so limiting that I evolved from that point. And I started understanding the occult, and I started pursuing occult knowledge and occult learning. And I transitioned. And I understood that I was a witch, and that there's no greater, in my opinion, or honorable thing to be than a witch. There was many female witches that told me I couldn't be a male witch, but I just kind of disregarded that. And there was people that was trying to get me initiated into their different groups. I just didn't hear what they were saying. And I continued to pursue my spirituality. Needless to say, many in the church didn't want to deal with me. Especially when I started seeing holes in the Bible, problems with Noah's Ark, problems with God repenting. In one place, the scripture says God don't repent. In the other place, he repents. If Jesus is God, how does he not know? How did God become a man? What is the process of that? The problems with that, the theological holes in that, holes where the apologists cannot even explain it without doing theological gymnastics. So we looked at all of those things, but I continued to pursue. And in time on this podcast and others, we will talk about those things. And so I've gone through these events. I had one when I was 7, looking for Jesus to show up. I had one at 13 when I started to preach. I had one at 15 when I was ordained. I've seen many different wonderful miracles, different expressions of divinity. And then I, left the church, and I do what I do magically, full time. And I've been doing this here my life. But I'm at another point now where my magic is becoming more powerful. And I do operate in a very powerful magical realm. But I'm entering this other place of understanding, this place where dimensions are coming together. This place where I'm understanding things, superpositions, quantum fluxes, different things that I did not understand before, and how to utilize them. And there are places that I'm headed toward where everybody won't be able to follow. But there's some of you that will. And this is the thing. Throughout all of my life, I believe that the pursuit of spiritual understanding was paramount. And I see a lot of people in the magical plane that claim to be witch, that claim to be necromancer, or claim to be hoodoo worker, but your life don't look like what you say you are. There's a lot of people that claim, yeah, I do hoodoo, but you can't tell the difference between them and someone else. There should be something different between you and someone else if you truly live in this spiritual place. If you're literally wanting and desiring to be powerfully magical and magically powerful, then you should spend a great deal of your time exercising that muscle. Exercising it. I know people that have watched the new Michael Jackson movie more than they've done affirmations and meditations. And I don't understand that. Now, I don't have no problems with you watching the movie, but I have every problem with you doing that nonstop and visualizing on that nonstop, but you ain't exploring what it means to be what you are. What it really means to be what you are. And then on top of that, you got people, like I was talking to a witch in Florida, and she was telling me, well, I haven't practiced my witchcraft in a long time. See, I don't understand that, because every single day is a spiritual time. How can you separate yourself from your magic? You don't put on a witch, you are one. That's what you are. This is nothing you retire from like it's a profession or a hobby or something. You are what it is that you are. So I don't understand someone telling me that, I haven't did magic in a while. I need to get back to doing my magic. That's like saying I haven't breathed in a while. I need to get back to doing my breathing. Okay? Whatever you are around and whoever you are around will have an imprint on your subconscious. If you are around people, muggles and cowans, or even other witches that are only witch in name, but believe that you are limited in your abilities, then you will be limited. If you are constantly in contact with music and television shows that's taking the witch out of you, then your craft is going to be extremely limited. No wonder we have so many poor witches. No wonder we have so many witches that cannot practice the craft. No wonder we have so many practitioners that's still in the broom closet. You're 108 years old, been practicing magic 67 years, got your own house, got your own community, and you're still scared that your neighbors are going to find out you're a witch. It's astounding to me. To me, the craft is a magically beautiful thing, and there's nothing more glorious or glamorous than being a witch, than being a practitioner of magic, a medium, a psychic, a hoodoo worker, whatever you may call yourself. There's nothing more glamorous than that. But you got to own it. You got to live it. You got to be it. You got to become it. And so I'm at a place where I'm going to this next elevation. This place where my gifts are becoming stronger. And my cravings for spirituality are stronger. And I feel it. And it's both new and old to me. I spend probably about 6 hours every single day, thank goddess, practicing reading and learning magic. And that's minimally. And I'm so grateful that I am full-time. Thank you for your donations. Thank you for your gifts. And if you can give an offering, please do so. Help us continue our work. Help us continue pouring out. Help us continue going places, talking to young witches, and getting them out of spiritual abuse and other places and other things. Thank you for your assistance. Thank you for your help. If you want to give a donation, you can do so right now. Just look at the link. Tap on it, send it via PayPal, and aid us in our work. But I'm so grateful that the goddess has been so grateful to me, that Oya has been so good to me and worked with me to where I can live a very wonderful life without the stress of being caught up in a muggle world all the time. I am so grateful for that. But magic is amazing. And I think, in my opinion, that the people that practice the craft should be the richest, the most at peace, the most successful people on the face of the earth. Why? Because you have this auxiliary power that flows in you and fuses with you and become one with you. You have these gifts that can show you, some people don't think we can win lotteries. Oh, yeah, we can. Yeah, we can. You can win every week. You got favored and there's blessings that surround you. Your craft is about you. One of the problems with the church, amongst many, is that they always say it's not about you, but witchcraft is all about you. Your life, your relationships, your situation should all be, it doesn't mean you won't go through things, but you have the power and the strength and the know-how to get out of all the things you go through. Every last one of them. That's what magic is about. No one comes to magic to be normal or ordinary. We come here for the power, the miracles, the magic. That's why you're here. Now I'm going to do a teaching on those of you that have lost pets, how to get your pet to reincarnate and come back to you. And it's not as difficult as you think. But you got to start out knowing that all things are possible magically. Everything is. And you got to get away from them naysayers that says it's not. You need to leave these people alone. You know, there's some friends that I couldn't walk with no more. I had a good friend, that I just couldn't walk with no more. My magic was suffering. I was suffering as a person. I don't see a difference between magic and myself. We are one and the same. But it wasn't doing me no good. I wasn't becoming stronger being around this person. It was a good person. He was a good friend. We golfed all over Texas together. He's a good friend at that time. But I had to say no. My spiritual walk is more important. We were friends for about 6 years. And I walked away. I can't be your friend no more. Because whatever you are around, you become like. You become like. So it's time for us to mind the craft. Now I'm going to tell you some more of those stories, and I thank all of you for being here on this podcast with me. The shorter videos that we do, I'm going to be talking about these things and giving you things that let you know some of the things that I do. And if you work these things, they'll work for you. But if you don't work them, then there's no way they can work for you. The one thing that the church does right is they go every Sunday and every Wednesday night, or wherever the Bible studies are. They're constantly feeding their souls. I encourage you to listen to these podcasts and listen to these teachings and listen to the things we're doing to feed your soul. Be around people that can feed your soul. Get music, listen to music, and watch shows that will feed your soul and make you feel more magical. I'm all about the woo, baby. I'm all about the woo. And if you're about that woo, you're in the right place. This is Paul Rafu, and you've been listening to the Wintercrest Podcast. Until next time, family, I'll talk to you later. Blessed be to all of my friends. Cursed be to all of my enemies.
Yeah. Cold air, bright flame, hit a crest when we enter. When the crest covers circle tight, we remember. Power in the whispers, protection in the spell. Ancient in our bloodline, yeah, we know it well. Strong minds, strong hearts, every sigil intentional. Love keeps us guarded, magic multi-dimensional. We rise together, no throne, no lone caster. Sisters and brothers, every spell cast faster. Ice in the wind, but the bonds stay warm. Through shadow and storm, we transform. This ain't fear, this is faith in motion. When the crest covered, strength, love, devotion.